Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Real PR with me, Fiona Scott. As you can probably see, it's an incredibly sunny afternoon in the UK. So the sun's beaming down, nothing I can do about it. There's a big atrium above me, so bear with me folks. Today I've got a real treat for you. So I'm talking to a really good friend of mine, a friend I've never met in person, I have to say, but we feel like we've known each other for ages and we're just going to have a really nice chat. Please, if there's any questions you want to ask, put them in the chat. And if you are watching on catch up, please put any comments in and I will definitely answer them in not real time, because this is both live TV and non-live TV, or as live TV, and this like weird world that exists in the world of TV, YouTube and all of that. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. You're going to have an even better day if you're listening to us. So please welcome my guest, my friend, who will introduce herself, Samantha or Sam Brick. Hi, Samantha.
Hello, Fee. Hi. Good afternoon.
Oh, it's lovely to see you. Joining us from France. Just introduce yourself, Sam, as you want to be introduced. Tell people who you are.
Well, it's Sam or Samantha Brick, and I am 53. I'm a writer, broadcaster, dog mother, gopher at home. And I, in my 9 to 5, as it were, well, there's no such thing nowadays, I'm a writer for the national newspapers. Very fortunate. I love what I do. I get to speak to some fabulous people and always have a laugh. I think my husband wonders what I do for a living because he's always hearing me laughing outside my office door. Occasionally I write truth bombs about myself, which always set the keyboard warriors off. I don't read your comments, I'm afraid, sorry. So yeah, I'm a writer. I love what I do. It's a real privilege, but I also love where I live in France as well. I'm very, very lucky.
So tell me, Sam, I've got to pick up on that, truth bombs. Lots of people won't know what that means. So give me an example of a truth bomb, and which might lead to comments which you ignore.
So I tend to write a lot about myself, as you know, now and then. I mean, first person pieces are something that journalists and writers, feature writers like myself, write now and again, and really the whole landscape of writing first person articles has changed massively over the last sort of 10 or 12 years, when newspapers increasingly launched their websites and went online and had below the line comments, and suddenly we're all like, oh my god, everyone's got a voice now. And when you write something, it's not fish and chip paper anymore, it's out there forever, and people can tell you what they think of you, and they do. So I will write things. I believe we're all, if I feel like about something in life, I suspect there will be other people who will feel the same about it, about me, about certain situations or life circs that they find themselves in. But I'm that person who's happy to, write about it, really. It's the things that you talk about with your friends And that can be everything from, relationships to divorces to friendships. As much as we like all the light and fluffy stuff, I like sort of, lifting up the carpet and looking underneath and talking about all that other stuff as well. So that's what I mean when I talk about truth bombs. I had a front page piece that ran about a month or so ago, which was titled "Why I Have Never Been Dumped."
I do recall your piece about, didn't you do something about looking good in your 40s and then in your 50s? You did a piece like that, didn't you, Sam? Could you remember?
I've done a. People tend to get pigeonholed a lot in the UK. So obviously, in places like the States, you can, and actually in France to an extent, you can be all lots of different things. But in the UK, you tend to get pigeonholed as that writer who will write about herself when it comes to her looks and her appearance. So I've done quite a lot of articles about how I look and how I appear. The big one was the one in 2012, which went viral. And that was the year when I was more Googled than Kate Middleton. That was the one about women hate me because I look so great. And obviously a very unflattering picture was chosen to accompany the piece, which obviously set the set the internet warriors off, but good on them. As a friend said to me, with a t-shirt she sent to me, haters made me rich. I didn't make me that rich, but they did make me rich that year.
So if you do something like that as a freelance writer, Sam, and you do it authentically because it's something you believe in, you seem to be able to absorb, say, a tabloidy headline, and you seem to be able to deal with the negative comments. How do you manage that?
Well, first of all, I don't absorb anything. I very much see it as a job. It's a job that I'm very committed to, but it is a job. When I've got an office, I'm really lucky. It's an absolute oasis, and I love it. But when I close the door at night, I'm back into being. I live in a French-speaking household. I've got dogs. I've got a small holding. That is the centre of my world. Really, that's my focus. So, as much as I love what I do in terms of writing and connecting with people, contributors and people that I write with, when that door closes, that's it. So I just don't take it on, Fee. I just don't. Have I got balls of steel? Probably, but I do, and this is the first thing I always say to other writers who do take it to heart: just don't do it. I'm very much that voice of doom person who will say to you, if you've got an answer, don't do it, because it will be out there forever. And I say this to contributors as well. If you are worried about, your great auntie Ethel or someone else being annoyed or slighted by what you say, then just don't do it, because you have to have a really robust personality and persona to write some of these big first-person pieces. And it has to be waters off the duck's back, really. Otherwise, it'd drive me nuts.
No, often I say to clients who want to share something deeply personal, which I know you've shared things that are deeply personal to you.
I have, yeah.
I always say to them, if you are confident and can argue it before God, then do it. But if you don't feel that strongly, don't, because people they feel they have a right to comment on your stuff these days more than ever before. So you've got to feel that strongly about it to want to do it. Once you feel that strongly, then go ahead, because I think then you are prepared. I mean, would you agree or disagree with that, Sam?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that advice, Fee. I think as long as you feel strongly about what you're talking about, and it's important to you, and it's an important aspect of your life, be it personal or be it from a business perspective, then yeah, definitely go for it. I mean, I would say, none of us are perfect. I'm not, as surprising as it is. But none of us are perfect. So if you say something, and as part of who you are as a business, I know we're talking about PR here, and in 5 years' time you think, oh crikey, I've talked about that back then and it's not who I'm now, just don't worry about it. When we, there's that brilliant Maya Angelou phrase, when we know better, we do better. So what feels right for you in the moment, it might not feel right for you in 5 years' time, and that's okay. Everyone evolves. So I wouldn't, as long as you feel you can talk about it, and what the naysayers will say, and try and pick your argument apart, then it's fine. But even then, as long as you can stand it up and it feels true to your values and who you are as a person, just yeah.
So, Sam, tell us some of the regular gigs you've got that you'd want anyone looking in on this, some of the regular things that you write about where people might find your writing.
Okay, so I am technically freelance. I do write mainly for the Daily Mail, which I consider myself to be very lucky to do because I love the team there. I've worked with lots of fantastic women in the on the paper over the years. I write a lot for the female supplement, which runs every Thursday. I would, from a PR perspective, I would say, and this is in 2024, it might change in the next few years, but I would say read the hard copy of the papers, because right now the national paper, if you want to be in the national newspaper, what the editors are currently focused on is very much what the papers that we either download onto our tablets, the electronic versions, or the ones that we buy in the news agents. So definitely read a newspaper, because that's really, you get a really good sense of what works each day of the week. So I write for the female section, which runs on Thursdays in the Daily Mail, and I write for female on the day features as well. And they tend to be really news reactive. So whatever is, I'm trying to think of an example, and my mind's gone blank. So I guess with the Amy Winehouse film out now, you know, if her best friend was to come to me and say, "Oh, Sam, I've got an interesting story to tell," then I would probably talk to my editor and say, "We should talk to her about this." Recently, there was a WAG storyline, a love triangle running in the press. I actually can't even remember the names of the two women and the footballer involved. But my editor was very keen to talk to a footballer wife who'd been through that similar situation. So I was able to find someone very quickly. And this is another thing that I do. I ghost people's stories. So I often talk to people about their experience, and then I'll write it up in their words, and then they always get to approve it. That's what I'm absolutely 100% crystal clear on. If you work with me on anything, you will always read it and sign off on it. So it's very much, I see it as a collaborative approach. So we're like in this sort of lovely love bubble whereby we chat, we get the story, you approve it, it gets published, and you know what's going out. The great thing I would say about it is when you have something that goes into the Daily Mail or onto the Mail Plus or Mail Online website, it's still a go-to for news producers all around the world, and in the UK especially. So if you really want to make a splash, then you are absolutely I would advise you to come to someone like me or go by fee to talk to writers like myself to get your story out there. I don't write about news stories. So if you've got stats about the latest, I don't know, cosmetic surgery or dog surgery or whatever, that's not me. But if you've got a really interesting story and you've got great photographs to back it up, which is really important as well, then definitely come to me for that. I also write for The Sun as well. They're fabulous daily pages. They are a fantastic team of women as well, and Guy, to write with, to work for as well. There's a lot of, you know, there's all the sort of timeless subjects really. So it's relationships, it's surgery, it's dating, it's children, it's motherhood, it's not motherhood, you know, non-motherhood. It's all those kind of subjects that we women talk about that I tend to write about. I also oversee a blind date column for the Daily Mail female section, which I absolutely love as well, and that's ongoing.
Well, that reminds me, I'm working with a dating coach specialist now, so I must send you her details. I've forgotten to tell you about
that.
Yeah, she's based in Gloucestershire.
Brilliant, because it's I mean, it's such a great subject, and the dating landscape is just it's wild. It's just changing so much, and there's so much dissatisfaction with the apps and the opaqueness of online dating and the whole kind of ghosting and the inconsistencies that there are. Yeah, that would be definitely of interest to
cool. And just anyone listening or watching to this can see how, you know, Sam is not an animal from another species. She's exactly the same as us. And it's okay if you deal with someone like Sam to say, oh, I know someone, or I work with someone who can talk about that. That is not a press release, which leads me neatly on, Sam, to ask you, what in your view as a journalist would you say is good PR? Or maybe we should start with, what's bad PR? for you?
I don't want to be controversial here, although I will be.
Go
I
on
think
then.
the whole royal family saga was very badly handled. I don't know who. I'm assuming that they've got someone who handles their communications, but that was an example of very bad PR. That opaqueness. We live in a world where you cannot control the news agenda, and I think we're going to look back on this year as a really pivotal point in terms of, if there is a vacuum, it's going to be filled. Now, you, the individual, who is the source of the story, can control that or feed that. But if you don't, other people will. And we saw that massively on social media and that's the thing, that the government and the politicians, they have absolutely no idea how to control this. Neither do all the regulatory authorities that are involved in communication, certainly in the UK anyway. People were filling the gaps on TikTok, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. And I thought it was exceptionally badly handled. Now, that is a really raw example, and it's obviously a very, very personal issue for the royal family with their various illnesses, which everyone else is experiencing as well. And there's a whole, argument around that about them being public funded, etc., etc. But you're in a relationship with the media, so when it's that sort of a push-pull approach. You need to. I from my perspective, honesty is always the best policy. You share. It goes back to what I said at the start of the conversation. If you share with people what you're going through, and I appreciate people do want to have a certain amount of privacy around that, well, then don't be in the royal family. Don't be involved in the public arena. Just go off and live a really nice life on a country estate. But when you are involved in the public arena, then there is that level of accountability that clearly everyone was craving for, and that that's when all the conspiracy theories go absolutely wild, and they're everywhere. And I think, I just want to underline the fact that that's a really powerful example, but I do feel for them. But it's an example of when things go very badly wrong, and I'm sure we're going to see lots more examples this year, because the media is changing so fast, the landscape is changing so fast from a PR perspective, that if you don't have your hands firmly on that steering wheel, then just expect to go way off course super quick.
Yeah, and I think that could happen. Obviously, the royal family is a global thing, but that could happen to me in my community, or you in your community. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Social media connects us in a way that didn't exist when I started my PR business 16 years ago. And from when I was working full-time as a journalist, it just didn't exist, did it, Sam? I mean, if there was a bad road accident, news journalists would find out usually first, because the police would let them know, or they'd called into a police voice bank. Now, within seconds, it's on social media. It's a whole different world, which we have to accept is not going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember in France when there was the Bataclan attacks, and all of the videos that were going straight onto, as it was then, Twitter, of the terrorists. And again, that's an example of citizen journalism, while reporting. Everyone can do this now. So if you're not in control of what you're saying, and you're not being proactive, then being reactive is a much weaker position to be coming from. You really need to be proactive and own your story and own what you want to say and communicate. People don't mind if you make a mistake, and people don't mind if you're not perfect, and people don't mind if you're apologizing. But silence when you're normally publicly engaging and you've got a certain profile, it's a disaster waiting to happen, basically. But I think, I'm Gen Z, I'm 53. I think for my generation, probably older, we're constantly having to kind of play catch up on, the technology that's coming through. Or, I'm someone who, I'm not someone who embraces it straight away. I'm sort of like looking and lurking a bit at first, but we need to, because that's the future. So, yeah.
And even as journalists, only this week I was speaking to a journalist who is making the transition from being employed to freelance. And there is this expectation they're just going to get work. You've got to be a business person, haven't you? You've got to have a business head. If you're anyone who's moving from an employed role into a self-employed role, you've got to big yourself up and be present, because you'll be lost otherwise.
Absolutely, Faye. I think it's very naive to just think you can just sit at home and expect someone to go, oh my God, remember her? She's amazing. Let's go and let's give her a job. Or you have to knock on all the doors. And people are used to journalists and PR companies and everyone associated with this particular area of the media, emailing and messaging. It's fine. You know, that's what we all do. It's a very small world. And I think it's a very friendly world and very cooperative and positive world, and we all help one another. So, but yeah, just to sit back and think it's going to come to you, that's just not going to happen.
So Sam, tell me, people like me, how important in your daily life are PRs like me?
Really important. And I think it's very much about building up a relationship. So obviously, you know, the kind of pieces that I write, Fee. And I do come to you about certain pieces and certain people. It's very, very unlikely I will read, let alone respond to a generic PR when I'm on those lists that come around. I just don't have time, really. It's about curating a relationship with the writer that you know covers the kind of subjects that you cover, basically. I think. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. I mean, I often say, and I said it this morning to a client, is with the national press, I'd rather know 2 or 3 journalists really well and the kind of subjects they're interested in. And I would rarely send you a press release. I would, if I really, really thought, oh, Sam, I think you might be interested in this. I'm sending this out next week about this client. Are you interested first? I might do that. But more likely, I'd just ping you an email that says, I'm working with this dating coach now. Here she is. She's based in Gloucestershire. Bear that in mind for the future. Because personally, for me, I find that more effective than trying to shove a story before you that I don't know and you probably won't ever read.
Absolutely. And I think a really good example of our relationship was last year when you introduced me to one of the subjects that I love writing about, as you know, is spirituality and esoteric subjects. And so when you introduced me to a particular psychic and we had a kind of introductory chat, it was great for me, because then when my female features editor at the Daily Mail said a really famous person has talked about receiving signs from the afterlife, Sam, who can you get to talk about it for tomorrow's paper? Well, straight away I said, Fee, I need to talk to her. And it was arranged, and the piece was written and ghosted in an hour, and it went in the following day. Now that you can, I mean, you know, to have a double page spread in the Daily Mail and have your book at the end of it is gold. And that, what you did for that particular person was dynamite. And that's a really great example of how the person, the PR and the journalist and the paper all work together perfectly in a perfect circle, or square even on that occasion. But it did work, yeah.
Right, Chris has put a question in for us then, Sam. I'm going to read it you. Okay. When everyone can share information with zero context, it's very dangerous to be lambasted unfairly. How should we manage that? And has it made crisis management PR even more vital than before? I think
it goes back to what I said about being proactive. You need to own the story. You need to have verified channels and accounts on social media. If I'm looking for the heart of the story or who is behind the story, and there's lots of randoms commenting online because they're TikTok influencers or Instagram influencers and they're getting millions of views, then they and their followers think their view is as relevant as yours. You need to have a verified account. You need to have your story out there, but before or at the same time as everyone else, and you need to be super reactive. Now, if you want that story covered in the nationals, or on the I don't know, on the news, then you need to have a really good relationship, a long-term relationship with editors, and know that you can pick up the phone to them and say, "Help! What do I do?" But you need to have elbows. You need to have sharpen those elbows. You need to have your balls of steel in place, and you need to absolutely crack on and just tackle it with two hands. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because we all know no one is perfect. Things go tits up on a regular basis in life. That's what life's all about. But you absolutely need to own it and just be proactive. I would say don't hide your head in, don't head in the sand, assume it will go away. It won't.
No, it won't. And particularly if it's around a topic that's going to keep coming up.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
this week, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of what's right and what's wrong, but people will recall if they, about a week ago or so, law came into force in Scotland called the hate crime law, and J.K. Rowling, who has a massive following, did a number of posts about that, expressing her views, but some of them were very personal, and one of them was about a trans woman friend of mine who she'd never met and never had interaction, but she lambasted her. Now, my friend got so much hate because of that. She's a trans woman, that I just wanted to cry. It was just, if you say something negative about an individual to an audience of 14 million, that individual is going to take a load of shit because of it. However, she left it about 24 hours, and then she recorded her response to this person who she never met, who had lambasted her. And I admired her for that, because I thought that took a lot of courage to stand up and say that. She did it on X. She put a response on every platform where that had been shared. And because I know her personally, I felt it personally. And I just thought it's a perfect example of where someone has a go at you. You don't know who they are. They're very, very famous. And you feel like you have no right of reply, and suddenly all these people are piling on you. They don't know your story. So she used it as a anchor to tell her story again. But that takes huge courage.
That takes an enormous amount of courage. Good for her. Good for her.
And she was on, very briefly, she had a 20-second clip on BBC News at 10. The story was on BBC News. It was all the tabloids covered it. And it's all to do with like the debate that's going on about trans. I'm a trans ally. I'm a proud trans ally. I'm just going to say it. But that was just one really recent example. I just think with crises generally, when I'm asked to deal with that, which I am 2 or 3 times a year, I can't make a crisis go away. We're simply managing a situation that already exists.
No. And that how you handled that was absolutely the best way to do it, for sure. Absolutely. Because now whenever news producers Google that story, your friend is going to come up again, and she will be approached to give the opposite view, because news is still supposed to be.
That's right.
Fair.
But it is. We're in a much riskier world when it comes to crisis management. Even if your profile is very high, like mine is in Wiltshire, in the UK, it certainly isn't nationally. But you always run risk, and I just think that you have to be able to defend your position. Mm-hmm. Or unless, in your case, Sam, you don't read below the line.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand, and this is probably one of the most emotive stories, news items of the year that's going on, because there is no black or white in this, and there is only black and white, or so it's reported in this debate, in this issue, and people really do get their ganders up on social media about it. I do think we'll look back on this period of time with a lot of shame, actually. That's my personal opinion. I am a trans ally as well, although I'm also women's rights. You see, I'm in the middle, but there's no room for nuance on social media. That is the problem with this. But your friend is absolutely right to have done that. You sit down, you have a good bloody cry at home, and then you just go out with guns blazing, and you just defend your corner. Because if you don't, it's kind of seen as like, oh, well, they've got something to hide, or they're guilty, or all those things. So she's absolutely done the right thing, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it is a tricky issue, and every year there'll be something that's a thorny issue that causes, we've got the election coming up, and I bet there'll be a lot in the UK kicking off about that. But anyway, Sam, I'm going to move to a slightly lighter subject now. So tell me, what does your day look like? So talk me through when you get up in the morning. Just talk us through your day so people get a sense of how you manage your working day.
Well, it's I mean, it's brilliant for me. I do yoga first thing, so yoga and meditation is very important to me. I'm really lucky, you know. I'm 53, touch wood. I don't take any meds or have any chronic illnesses, but I do look after myself. I do eat a plant-based diet. I did have 7 dogs this time last year. Well, start of last year. I've now got 3. Unfortunately, they're all at that age where they're all starting to cross the rainbow bridge, as I think our dog community tends to call it, which has been devastating for me. So I make sure I walk my other dogs, and then I don't really look at social media until the start of the morning, which is for me, it generally doesn't tend to be before 10 a.m. my time, which is 9 a.m. the UK time. I mean, in my 40s, I was, much more early, but now work-life balance is really important. And I think what my generation have really forgotten, not forgotten, but my generation have definitely been, I kind of want to say hoodwinked into the idea of if we all work and that presenteeism, then it's amazing and we should all do that. And actually, it isn't. And I'm really pleased that Gen Z and millennials are kind of pulling us all up about this and actually having a much healthier work-life balance. So it's something that I've been really working on myself. So I tend to work 9 till 12. We do have a French 2-hour lunch break here, and now I do cook from scratch, and then I'm back at my desk at 2 p.m. my time, and I work till 5. It's very rare that I 5 o'clock UK time. I have got the time difference that I'm always having to work with, so I work till 6 o'clock French time, 5 o'clock UK time. I really try not to let things go into my evenings because I've got a life and I try to have a life, and that's been something that I've been working on, which is really important to me. So I tend to write in the afternoons and pitch ideas and get on top of stuff in the mornings. And that's kind of how it works for me, really.
Do you know, when I used to work in TV, Sam, and my day was frenetic, not very different to now. But I used to notice that the MPs, when they used to come into the show, so I worked at Millbank, so they would come in for Millbank ready to be recorded. And the 2 media outlets they always paid attention to first thing in the morning, that they thought was, I suppose, the litmus paper of the day of what people cared about, was the Daily Mail and Radio 4 Today programme.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you? Because I think that's still the case.
Yeah, it is. For our generation, it is. It's it's really interesting. I'm working on a piece of the Mail at the moment, which hopefully should run next week. About I've interviewed 4 different generations of women, so Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, Baby Boomers, about where they get their news sources from, and it's incredible because you and I will go to those news sources. No, the younger generations do not. It's and this is why I say about the landscape is changing massively. So yeah, I do look at those. But will everyone who does our jobs in 10 years' time? No, which is exciting and it's scary at the same time. Like you, I used to work in TV, and the presenteeism there, it was insane, really. With having to be in at 9 and working till 7. I mean, what were we thinking? Anyway, go back to that phrase, when we know better, we do better. But yeah.
So tell us, you've said about this piece going to come out in the Daily Mail soon. Talk about some pieces you've done recently, so in the last few months, that you think our viewers will be interested in. Have you interviewed anyone famous that's come out, or something you've really loved over the last, say, 3-4 months?
I had a really interesting piece that ran 2 weeks ago in The Sun with a woman who talked about how she lost weight, and she went from a size 16 to a 12, and she didn't tell her friends she was dieting because her generation of women aren't supposed to diet. And we talked really interestingly about how the fact that if, you know, and there is a Bridget Jones film coming out, well, there's been an announcement that they're filming a fourth one, but how Bridget Jones in the first film today would not be seen as being, you know, overweight or fat at all. She would be body positive, basically. So that, from that perspective, it hasn't aged well. And it was a really interesting piece to talk to her about, because the body positive movement was great, and it's great that, you know, a bikini body is a bikini body, that you put a bikini on you, the end. It doesn't have to be a size whatever, and you don't have to have, you know, certain boob or cup size and all that kind of rah-rah. But she just said, friends got really pissy with me when I was talking about the fact that I was dieting. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, that particular piece came out of the fact that the Sun had read that I had interviewed a woman who lost an awful amount of weight. It ran in January in the Daily Mail. Again, it was another one on the front page, and her friends just couldn't stand her because she suddenly had gone from that, you know, nice, sensible, overweight, obese friend to this woman who didn't just lose weight but gained a personality and gained confidence and gained a life, and her friends didn't like it at all, so she had to, you know, she changed her social circle and everything. I'm not describing it very well, but yeah, so the second piece came out of that, and the first piece with that woman was it was pretty phenomenal when you see what she looks like today to what she looked like before. So that was a great one. There was a brilliant one I did last year. It was a bit of a two-header with a mum who's a very interfering, nosy mother. And the Daily Mail loved it so much that we did a Christmas special with her as well. That was just brilliant.
I saw that. I didn't. Sorry. I'd have to slap you if you were my mother-in-law. But, oh, yeah.
If anyone wants to read it, Googled Daily Mail, Emma Parsons Reid, meddlesome mother, and you will find out what it's like to wake up with your mother-in-law sitting at the edge of your bed at 6:30 in the morning because she wants to check her daughter's okay. Just comedy gold. I love Emma. But yeah, that was brilliant. And I've done pieces in the past. I mean, one of the ones that I really loved doing was with a woman who's got a sort of dating criteria, the kind of guy she wants to date. And we did a follow-up with a guy who had a list as well. Those kind of pieces are just brilliant to write and brilliant to work on. And it's great talking to people. It's interesting because you used to work in TV and I used to work in TV, and I worked in documentaries, and it's a very, very, very similar skill set, basically. And talking of which, as a journalist, and this is the great thing, you have relationships with people that span over decades. There was a piece that ran, which I ghosted in the Daily Mail, which really caused a lot of, I mean, it's brilliant. It did cause, it was a real conversation starter, shall we say, with a friend of mine, Samantha Walsh, who talked about how she quit her job because she was sick to the back teeth of working at Christmas because she isn't a mum, and all the mums wanted Christmas off. And that's, you know, she was on Radio 4, she was on Woman's Hour talking about that. She was, you know, invited onto all sorts of programs to talk about it. And we actually met because I filmed her for a Sky documentary series when we were both in our 20s, so Beta Uncovered. Those are the days. But we kept in touch. So it's all, you know, when you form a relationship with a journalist, you just keep in touch and let them know what you're doing, because chances are they can easily place a story with you. And that's, I saw Sam had posted online that she was handed in a notice because she was just wanted her life back, basically. She was working in retail and never had a Christmas off. And we really went for it. As soon as I saw the pictures that the Daily Mail had taken of her, I knew it would be on the front cover. And it was.
Yeah. Well, let's just talk about that for a minute, Sam, because it's something I talk to about clients and people I train. Pictures are really important, aren't they? Often, if you see a journalist, they might not use the word picture. They might say images, photographs, or they might say collects. There are different ways, but basically, if you are someone who's what I would call a thought leader, an expert, or someone in business who wants to be seen nationally, I think good pictures are a must.
Yes, they are, and they are the difference between you, not having great pictures and someone having great pictures being chosen for a piece. Because, you know, budgets are tighter and tighter. It's rare that it's increasingly rare that picture desks will send out, you know, snappers, etc., photographers to you. But if you can provide a head and shoulders picture of you, looking to camera and having those images taken of you, serious, non-serious, smiling, not smiling, you will be the one who'll be chosen for the quotes in the article. Please don't take pictures where they are black and white. Please don't take pictures where you're looking off into the distance. We don't use those. Please don't take pictures where you're wearing sunglasses. Please don't send us pictures of you with your kids. They are lovely, but they're not right for a paper. Ditto you on holiday. Ditto you holding a glass of alcohol, unless it's relevant to the article. Ditto you with your group of friends, because we need permission from all of them to include the picture in whichever publication, online or hard copy it is. Yeah, just this is what we want.
Yeah. And in fact, you probably don't know this, Sam, but now, all the years on in my business, I won't actually work with anyone at all who refuses to have a photo shoot with decent pictures.
Yeah,
I just won't do it. And also, I'll often say to them as well, particularly for women, not as much for men, I don't think, but sometimes have them done every year to 18 months as well, because we tend to change the way we might change our hair. In my case, might change glasses, might dye my hair. I feel it's something you do
right.
refreshing. Yeah. But Sam, it's been joyous to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you will agree maybe next year to come back and we'll chat again about what you've been up to for the rest of the year. Is that okay?
Absolutely. And well, no doubt the news landscape will have changed totally. And we'll be talking about the exciting developments. Absolutely, Fee. And thank you
Brilliant.
for having me
Well,
on.
can you tell our viewers, please, how can people find you and see the work that you do? How would you like to be contacted?
My work email, thesambrick@gmail.com. Very simple. I look at emails all the time. Or I'm on Facebook, which is predominantly really work nowadays. And that's Sam Brick. I don't really use X. I think it's a crazy place at the moment with mad algorithms. But yeah, the email address is probably the best place to get in touch with me.
Brilliant. And to everyone else, I really hope you've enjoyed the chat I've had with Sam. It's really lovely to see her and for her to take the time to join us from France. You can hop over to my website, scottmedia.uk, or join my Facebook group, Fiona Scott's PR Tribe. And I look forward to speaking to you all next month. Thank you very much. Thank you.